Hi, I'm Eric. This is the Longbox Review podcast, and welcome to the 8th annual Christmas Gab Bag. This is the annual episode where my friend George from Meanwhile at the Podcast and I discuss our curated selection of Christmas-related comic books. Welcome back, George, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Eric. Merry Christmas to you, and happy birthday to you. Our birthdays are both at this time of year.
Happy birthday to you as well.
I hope you have a great holiday season.
So we have selected 3 issues or collections of comic books to talk about. They're Christmas-related, as I said, and I think we should just jump right in, don't you, George?
Yes, let's do it. I've been waiting all year for this.
Normally, I insist on you going first because you're the guest. But this time, I have a surprise for you and the listeners.
Ooh, I like surprises.
Well, just, Christmas is all about surprises, right?
Yes.
So I decided this year, because I just read this comic book. In fact, all of these comics that I'm going to talk about on this episode are ones that I acquired this year in 2025. Which is usually not the case. Usually I, dive deep into the long boxes and pull out something from way in the past to do this. But this year I was able to get these all in the same calendar time frame. And George, there's a bit of a theme going on with these.
Ooh, not only is there a surprise, but there's a theme. Ooh, this sounds almost like a Christmas story. I feel like Ralphie in class and I have to write a theme. I don't know if that sound came through, but that was just me rubbing my palms together because I'm so excited. And if you didn't hear that, folks, now you know what I was doing.
Right. Okay, so I guess without further ado, we'll just jump right into our Christmas Gab Bag 2025.
I really now think, had I known this was happening, I should have gotten you a fruit basket, like a big fruit basket like Ralphie did for his teacher. And then when I put it on the desk, I'll daydream a little bit about Christmas comics. And then I'll give you a wink, Eric, and then onto the Gab Bag.
So what I'm doing, George, here.
Great.
The secret Christmas Gab Bag comic this year is called Thanksgiving.
Is this the first time we've done Thanksgiving comic? I think this is great.
But there is a Christmas element to it, and since we are recording before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
In this case, in the real timeline, and Thanksgiving precedes Christmas, I thought this fits.
It does.
I'll make it fit. And like I said, it fits the theme that I'm going for here. Anyway, so this is Thanksgiving, a one-shot from Ahoy Comics, written by Mark Russell. Artist was Morissette and Rob Steen.
Eric, I have another question for you to go back in the history. I don't expect you to know off the top of your head, but is this also the first time that we've included a book that pretty much just came out in the Gab Bag?
Quite possibly.
I think it is.
Yeah.
So you're doing a double duty on first-time things here.
Yes.
This is a key episode, folks. Save this, put it in Mylar. You might want to get it slabbed.
Mylar podcasts. What I got here is the variant covers, which just shows a lot of Thanksgiving iconography, including a turkey, a pilgrim's hat, pumpkin, apple pie, and a big old bloody knife coming down the middle of this. It's actually a 9-panel grid is what it is on this cover. So here's what Thanksgiving is about. Well, this is the description, the solicit text for this, right? It says, Thanksgiving, a day when American families come together until the strain inevitably tears them apart. But for one family, the cruel and deadly secret of the turkey neck killer binds them together in the saddest, most shameful way possible.
Dong, dong, dong.
Doesn't that sound like great family fare, George?
It does. And in fact, that sounds like my Thanksgiving 2017.
Oh my God. Wow. If your Thanksgiving 2017 was anything like what was described in this comic.
Oh, well, I'm only talking about the solicit, not the comic. But
okay.
That was Thanksgiving 1988. No, just
Have you read this? Because I know you're a big supporter of Ahoy.
Yes, not only am I a big supporter of Ahoy, but I am a big Mark Russell fan. But I have not read it yet. But don't worry, you're not spoiling me. I have my copy, but I have the cover A,
Oh, okay.
like the main cover by Morrison.
Well, maybe I shouldn't talk about this, George. Maybe we should just stop right now.
No, talk about it. Doesn't matter.
All right. Folks, here's a synopsis of the issue. The main character, the lead character, our point of view character, Joe, tells us the story of her family who have gathered on this particular Thanksgiving. And I'm going to read a little bit from this. So she says here, holidays tend to be our milestones in life, the way we count years. Rituals to convince us that nothing's changed. The rituals remain the same, so we don't notice as we ourselves change. And we get to see Grandpa here watching television. This is the first mention of the turkey neck killer on the evening news. And Grandpa says, and I wanted to include this because this is giving you a taste of Mark Russell's humor in case you've not read anything by Mark Russell. All this talk about turkey is making me hungry, he says. Next panel, we see Joe with her brother. So we don't notice ourselves slipping away, she says. And the brother, Terry, is saying, so anyhow, or anyway, now that she's gone to HR, I'll probably get fired. I should know by Christmas. and Joe is drinking some wine and says, delightful, Terry. And from off panel, Grandpa is saying, Ma, how's dinner coming? Joe asks Grandma if she can help. Grandma looks over at her rather irritatedly and says, yeah, could you go destroy the TV set, dear? Anyway, Joe goes to get Grandpa, and he gets up and says, comes into the dining area and says, all right, goddammit, let's pray.
Some of this, I don't think that part about the praying, but some of this was in a preview, I think in issue 3 of Ancestral Recall, another Ahoy book.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what you just said sounded familiar, especially the human resources part. So I have read that part because there was a couple of page preview over in one of those Ahoy books. Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully it doesn't go too well. You're going to get spoiled, George. I'm sorry.
I don't care. This is fine. This is what happens on the Gab Bag.
Yes. All right. Ever since Joe's, so we get a little bit more. Ever since Joe's dad split without warning, she has an Uncle Stan, who is her mother's brother, Uncle Stan has helped the family financially. Joe refers to him as her emergency dad. We do find out in what I think is an unnecessary, not from Joe's point of view scene, that Stan, who is a minor celebrity because he is a game show host, kind of like a Price is Right type thing. Anyway, we see this scene with Stan talking to somebody off stage as he comes off. And basically, he doesn't like the contestants on his game show. In fact, he detests them. And their sweaty hugs and their rambling dialogue and all that stuff. Anyway, we get a bit of truth telling regarding the presidentially pardoned turkeys that Joe provides us because of how they're raised. The turkeys, their hearts usually give out within, and I did not know this, and I'm just taking on faith that it is true. Much like we have to take on faith a lot of things that are said around the Thanksgiving table.
That's right. But we really hope that Mark Russell did his research.
I'm sure he did. Yes. But their hearts usually give out within a year or so. And this is a quote from the book. They're almost always the only turkey on the farm. They retire to a paradise they were never meant for. I mean, that's so sad. Anyway, conversation turns to the Loki. Loki's messing with my podcast right now. Conversation turns to the local turkey neck killer and how he or she, Brother Terry points out, saying women can be monsters too. The turkey neck killer cuts off his or her victim's fingers. And there's some discussion about, well, why is he called the turkey neck killer if he cuts off fingers? Why not call him the finger cutter offer killer? Anyway, soon after, Grandpa declares it's family confession time, their annual tradition around the Thanksgiving table. And George, my first question for you. Do you have any Thanksgiving traditions such as this?
Yes. I'm trying to remember. We would do some of those things where, like, you say what you're thankful for, things like that. But that started late, like in my late teens, and only lasted a couple of years.
Okay. Yeah, we do that too. We go around and what are we thankful for? It's usually, well, we're thankful for all of you and in the room. And let's see. So Joe admits.
So that is your tradition?
Yeah, we actually do that. Yeah.
Any other traditions?
We have like certain things that we have to for Thanksgiving dinner. We always have.
Oh, for the food. Oh, yeah, sure.
But other than that, no. It's just we do our little what we're thankful for, and we play a bunch of games. And if I'm lucky,
nice.
If I'm really really lucky, I get to watch football.
Well, now there are 3 games on. I mean, you can't even squeeze in half of one.
Usually, I'm cooking for a good chunk of the day.
Yeah.
So I can't really watch the earlier ones. And then once it's dinner time and afterwards it's game playing. So, Joe admits to stealing the family car when she was 17, surprising her mother. Terry admits to putting a GPS tracker in his ex's car. And Uncle Stan admits to being the turkey neck killer.
Dun, dun, dun.
And he punctuates his confession by tossing a severed finger onto the banana pudding. Or as Joe put it, quote, the proof was in the pudding. I freaking love this. The jokes in this comic are just hysterical. At first, no one says anything, but Terry then asks Stan, could you kill someone for me? I've got some words here from the book. After Terry says that, Joe says, he's not serious. Terry, like Hitler's blood, I ain't. So what do you say, Uncle Stan? Do you take requests? Joe, Grandpa, are you hearing any of this? Grandpa, I threw in the towel on this family years ago. I belong to the yams now, as he's taking a bite. Joe, Grandma, say something. Grandma, murder is a sin, and a bad one. Yes, thank you, Joe says. But I mean, Grandma continues, you are just killing Mexicans, right?
That's right, because actually, now that you mentioned that line, isn't there something at the beginning? I seem to remember this now from the preview that specifically says that she'll just spout out
the racist
bigotry. Yeah.
And it's against Mexicans. Uncle Stan, nothing like white wine with turkey. Joe, we got to call the police, right? Talking to the family. Terry, no, this family just got interesting. Grandma, can everyone just settle down? Whatever Stanley did, we shouldn't let it ruin Thanksgiving dinner. Can we just, be civil? Joe, there's a severed finger in the banana pudding. This is a family, not a criminal organization. This isn't who we are, is it? Is it? Stan then pulls out cards with everyone's Christmas present, a hip replacement surgery for Grandma, a 3-week vacation for Mom, and Joe's student debt to be paid off. Stan then sweetens the deal. The family can choose between those gifts, or Stan will kill someone for each of them.
Oh.
Terry's definitely in. Grandma is considering it, and Grandpa will just go along with whatever the family decides. Joe employs her mother to say something, anything, and Stan says, oh, you never told her. Stan says he did already kill for Joe's mom and for her. And I just want to note, Morissette colors Stan's blue eyes that we've seen in previous panels. Now they're colored red, which I thought was a really nice touch. Anyway, Stan admits to killing Joe's father. We find out that Joe's father was, quote, troubled, according to her mother, and she was afraid that he might hurt her or the kids when she was going to deliver the divorce papers. So she asked Stan for help. She only meant, she says to Joe, for Stan to reason with her husband, but she apparently helped unleash something within Stan. And here I've got some more tidbits for us. Oh, and by the way, George, you would appreciate this, and I'm sure many of our listeners also would appreciate this. The pages are numbered.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
I love it.
I think Ahoy does that in general.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is a nice thing. In fact, I think on their, at least they used to, and they made a thing out of it saying, we're the only comic company that still numbers, the pages.
Well, apparently I haven't really noticed for the Ahoy comics I've read before, but anyway, so this is a splash page. I'll show you, George. Sorry for the spoilers, but showing Stan after having just killed his brother-in-law. So this is from Joe's mom's perspective. My brother looked euphoric, like he had seen the face of God, like he had put on pants that fit for the first time in his life. There was no way he would ever go back. That day changed him, changed our lives forever. And the artistry here, showing Stan, the look on his face, it is euphoric. And this echoes actually something that he had said in that earlier scene that I talked about when he was complaining about his contestants and about wanting to feel like a god. And which I felt like that was unnecessary because you get it so handily here in this flashback. Stan declares it will be a murdery Christmas, given the 2 yes votes that are Joe's and Joe's mom's because of what he did in the past. Stan then answers the door while Joe tries to convince her family they can't go along with all of this. When Stan returns from talking to the police who are currently out looking for the turkey neck killer, because the bit at the beginning with Grandpa is that the turkey neck killer struck again, obviously because Stan has a severed finger. Like I said, when Stan returns after talking to the police, he realizes that Joe is now gone from the room, and so is the severed finger. Joe took it to those same cops, running after them, and tried to get them to go back to her house, saying, the turkey neck killer's in my kitchen. But they think it's just a prank and dismiss her.
Huh.
Of course. Back at the house, Stan admonishes Joe, telling her, that was an awful thing you did to your Uncle Stan, Joe. What? Telling the truth? Yes, I know. I killed those people. That's true. But the truth? The truth is an elevator. And if you take the truth all the way to the bottom floor, what you'll find is this: that we're family and those other people aren't. Which is why, in the end, you will never choose them over me.
Mm-hmm.
I kill people nobody wanted around anyway, Joe. And what do you get out of it? Stan, I get to feel the way a god should. But after that, Joe there's a bit of a scene on that same page where Joe is thinking about his victims and who they might be and what their lives were before they were cut short by this crazy uncle. So then she grabs the rifle that is above the mantle that we see in that scene. And I did check this, George. It's like Chekhov's gun.
Uh-huh.
So did the rifle appear in the previous scene? And it does, but just barely. But at least it's there.
Right.
It's not just there in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma tries to takes the rifle from Joe, saying that Joe is ruining dinner. And that's when the rifle goes off.
Oh, gosh.
Stan says he loves Joe, but doesn't trust her and starts choking her. Mom yells and attacks Stan with a knife. Joe says, if the rituals fail to convince us that this is normal, and we look for the first time at the people who are really sitting across the table from us, and then we get a little bit of Stan weakly saying, not you too. Whatever happened to loyalty? A decision remains. The decision to continue pretending until no other decision is possible. And then comes the knock at the door.
Dong, dong, dong.
It's the police. They're responding to the gunfire that was heard and see Stan's body. Joe jumps in telling them, well, obviously this is the work of the turkey neck killer.
Ha.
The cops go, yeah, that makes sense. Uncle Stan was right about one thing. In the end, a family will protect its own. Terry's talking to one of the detectives now. I don't know, man. We were watching the game, and when we came back out, he was dead. Family just being a word for the people we imagine we can trust. Grandma tells the cops, I think it was a Mexican. But abuse that trust long enough, and we simply change whom we consider to be family. Joe's telling the cops, we all loved him. No matter how much you want to look the other way for a killer, you can only be apathetic to the pain they caused so many others for so long before realizing that you were merely further down the list. Echoing his Stan's comment about the elevator, right? And the final words, showing Grandpa eating the banana pudding. Happy Thanksgiving. And yes, there is a bit of red on the pudding.
It's a parable for the ages.
This might be my favorite Christmas comic book ever.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, when this was solicited, first of all, I get every Ahoy book anyway. But Ahoy, Mark Russell, Morissette, Thanksgiving, that's a quadfecta.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a definite, I was going to buy it anyway, but it should be a definite buy for anybody.
Oh, yeah. There's also a Thanksgiving poem.
I was going to ask you about the back matter.
Yes, Ahoy includes back matter stuff. A poem by Sandra Enos, published in Good Housekeeping in November 1901.
Do you think it really was published in 1901?
Again, I can only take their word for it.
I mean, let's face it, it would be public domain at this point, right? So you could just take anything from there, right? If Good Housekeeping probably existed back then, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. There's also a few Thanksgiving recipes. One for stuffed tomatoes, creamed turnips, which is probably not, I mean, unless it's more of a regional thing, maybe not such a dish that is used very often these days. I don't know. And finally, canned peas.
Is it how to can the peas or how to...
No. It's here. This one's really short. It says, open the can of peas, presumably, and pour the contents into a colander. Drain off the juice and set the colander in fresh cold water. Drain and put the peas in a saucepan with a little boiling water to heat thoroughly. Season with butter and salt.
Somehow I think even I could screw that up, though.
And this is from the Physical Culture Cookbook from 1901.
All right.
And the stuffed tomatoes recipe is from the Cookbook of the United States Navy, 1927.
Interesting. Huh.
And then finally, there is a one-page short story with one panel illustration of a story called God Trouble by Carol Leigh, in which the idea of a god, also tying back to Stan's thing, right, is explored with dangerous effect. And that's all I'll say because you have to read it. It's a very clever story about who makes the gods, how we make gods, why we make gods. I thought it was very well done for a piece of flash fiction.
It is very rare that those one-page prose stories in the back of Ahoy Comics don't hit for me. Now, of course, there are a couple that stand out, but I mean, usually I come out of that one page or so with a smile on my face and go, how did they do that in such a short amount of space?
Yeah. See, and having read this now and just seeing how good the individual issues are, because I think I have very few actual single issue titles of Ahoy Comics, because I mostly read trades these days. So I think I'm missing out on this stuff because they don't include this back matter stuff in the trade collections.
Oh, they don't? Oh, okay. I don't have any trades. There are a couple of books that went straight to a graphic novel trade paperback format. One was a recent sequel to Justice Warriors, which I have not read yet. So I don't know if the graphic novel has back matter. And then during the pandemic, their book, Captain Ginger, I believe it was volume 2, they had to stop production of it because like they were on like number 2 when the shutdown took place.
Oh.
And then they didn't, when everything started opening up again, they decided not to put out the single issues and to just collect it all at once. And I have to admit, while I have that collection, I never sat down and read it or checked to see if whatever back matter that was supposed to be in the single issues made it into that trade paperback.
And I'm entirely going off of memory of things I have read in the past. So I could be wrong about that, but I don't recall seeing stuff like that in the trades.
I would hope that the trade for Ash and Thorn, another miniseries from Ahoy, would have the back matter because at the end of each issue, there was a recipe, like you're saying. And I'm trying to remember if it was a real recipe, because there was a whole thing about mysticism and sorcery and all that stuff in that book. And I'm trying to think of, was the name of the dish just like devil's chicken? Now I don't remember if it happened to just be chicken with some hot sauce, or if it was just like a fake recipe. That part I wish I could remember. I believe they were real recipes though, so it would be nice if that made it into the back of that book.
That's all I have for Thanksgiving, George.
That
Shall we
was
actually
pretty
get
cool.
into Christmas?
Yes, we are going to go into Christmas now. So we will move from Thanksgiving to Christmas. And unlike you, Eric, this issue that I'm going to be talking about is not a recent comic. But like you, some of the books that I'm going to talk about were purchased this year. And like I usually say on our show, when I can have an opportunity, like the late great Meatloaf sang, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So 2 of these comics, while they're older, were purchased this year with the Gab Bag in mind, which just goes to show everybody that I'm thinking about Christmas 365 days a year. And when there's a leap year, I just sleep for that extra day. This comic, though, is the one that I had in my collection already. And it is Marvel Team Up #1, Volume 1, #1, Spider-Man and the Human Torch. The cover date is March 1972, so it came out at the end of 71. The cover price is 20 cents. Oh, for 20 cents, Eric, what you could get, right? Oh,
right.
Man. I'm showing Eric the picture of the comic. This is the time in Marvel, that short-lived period where the covers had they were in a box format, where the artwork was in a panel underneath the title. Am I describing that right?
Yeah.
Okay, there was a brief period of time where all Marvel comics were like this on the cover.
I'm glad they changed that.
Yeah, me too. I am too. Although
so wait,
go ahead.
Is this an originally purchased at the time of publication comic for you, or
no?
Did you get it later?
I was a huge fan of the Marvel Team Up books, Marvel Team Up and Marvel 2-in-1, and I didn't start buying superhero comics off the rack until later into this run. But back then, because it wasn't, when I started to hunt for back issues, it wasn't that far. The comic wasn't almost 50 years old like it is. Well, it is 50 years old, actually. Now I think about it. The comic wasn't 50 years old. The comic was only like 10 years old. So I did buy it for $8. Original bag where I bought it. But when I was younger, going to conventions in my teenage years, we all had our wish lists. We would write them out on a piece of paper, and I wanted to get all the Marvel Team Ups and the Marvel 2-in-1s, which I did eventually. So yes, I picked this up for $8 back then. Well read, though. Like if I were to try to get rid of it today, it's not like it's hundreds of dollars. I mean, it's well read, not in the best of shape. If I were to send it to CGS, they would send it back and they would laugh at me.
Well, and I just want to mention too, I'd never read that issue. All these years. I don't have it in my collection, but it's on the Marvel app. And so when George told me earlier today, as we're recording, that he was going to do this issue, I immediately went to the app and I opened it up and read the issue, and I'm glad I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. And that's the magic of the app, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Usually when you and I talk about older issues like this, part of the fun is the house ads, or maybe there's a Hostess Cupcake ad or something, which probably would not make it into the app, right?
Nope.
Well, A, because this is a number one issue, no letters. B, no house ads except for one, which I'll mention at the end, and no hostess ad or anything like that. So very minimal stuff to talk about with actually having the the physical copy of this. All that fun, nostalgic stuff that we like, a lot of it is missing from this particular issue. The ads are, it's almost like a penny saver ad or a newspaper ad page. It's all those little boxes of, okay, buy some comics for a penny. Do you want to have your poem set to music? All those little things. Nothing. Not even any sea monkeys in here. All right. So much like you. Okay. So on the cover we have Sandman in his old green outfit at the top of a water tower, turning his hand into a hard mallet to burst a hole in the water tower to drown Johnny Storm's flame, the Human Torch's flame, and to hit Spider-Man with the water. And at the bottom, on the cover, it says, "All new, two of Marvel's mightiest in one mind-staggering mag. And now, the Sandman." Much like you did, Eric, when you read Mark Russell's writing, I feel I have to do the same thing, and I'll do it very quickly, just to give people a flavor of how comics were written back in the early 70s, because a lot of you out there were probably born in a year that began with a 2. So you would not know this, and I just want you to hear the vernacular of writers who were living in downtown Manhattan trying to be hip or with the times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what's fun here is you get a splash page, which we don't get splash pages that much anymore. But the splash pages has nothing to do with the story. It's just a pinup of the Human Torch and Spider-Man kind of like fighting each other. And at the top it says, "Spidey and the Torch together. Have yourself a Sandman little Christmas." And the credits are a sprig of marvelous mistletoe from Stan Lee, editor, Roy Thomas, writer, Ross Andrew, artist, Mike Esposito, inker, and Artie Simek, letterer. Classic names for people who grew up with these comics. And now, Eric and listeners, sit back by the Yule log, because I'm going to read you the first 2 pages of this issue as quickly as I can. "'Tis the day before Christmas, and all along the sand, not a creature is stirring, save the polar bear clan." So we're on the beach, and the polar bear club is about to jump into the water, the cold water. Sure, we know it's not much of a rhyme, but we've got to start this story somewhere, don't we? Oh, and folks, for those of you who don't know, there was an omniscient narrator in these comics with these caption boxes, which I miss, and I know the rest of the world does not. Anyway. Or perhaps we should begin with Peter Parker. So Peter, in Thought Bubbles, is saying, "Brrr, I'm still not sure if Jameson really wants pics of this crew for his Christmas Eve edition, or if this is just his idea of a late April Fool's joke." Now here we go, folks. Are you ready? "But I've got to have bread for my late date with Gwenny. So," and then the people start running into the water. They're off and running. Off, anyhow. "Actually, I shouldn't make fun of them. I'm the one whose teeth are chattering, and they don't even have spider powers. Oh well, take your human interest shots, Mr. P, and split." So the omniscient narrator says, "Not too quickly, lad, or you might miss something. You might miss this." And a woman in the water goes, "Eek!" Although I don't think it would have been eek, because that doesn't really sound too surprising. "Something alive just brushed past my legs. It's some kind of snake or a tentacle, but it's made out of sand. Let me out of here." In the caption box, "A snake? No, but a tentacle, yes." So it's hard to depict this, but what the artist does is just put some dotted lines on the sand to, illustrate that there's something there. "A tentacle, indeed, of sand, which spirals cylindrically upward, then begins to shape itself into something far more sinister." So what happens is the sand goes up into a cylinder, like the narrator says, and eventually turns into Sandman. And the woman yells, "It's a man, and I know who he is. He's the Sandman." And he says, "That's my name, sister. Don't wear it out." And then as the people run out of the water, one guy says, "Excuse me, I just remembered a dental appointment in the Bronx." Another guy goes, "Gangway." Two policemen rush to the scene. "Come on, Joe, and we thought this detail would be dull." And then Peter Parker says, "If I remember the Sandman, mister, it's liable to be livelier than you want it to be." So as the policemen confront Sandman, "All right, fancy pants," which is, of course, what police say today when they confront the perpetrator. "Maybe nobody's seen you for months, but there's still a warrant out for your arrest." So he says, "There better be. I wouldn't want to think you blue boys had forgot me." The other police officer says, "Wouldn't dream of it, pal. Now just hold still a minute while I..." Huh? Because he tries to handcuff Sandman, but of course he's made out of sand. And, as the policeman notes, the cuffs went right through his wrist. So that dialogue, when I was a kid, it was fine to me. It wasn't laugh-worthy. It wasn't humor. Not like people in my neighborhood spoke like that, but it seemed to make sense. And of course, throughout the issue, there's more verbiage like that.
But did it bother you though that we're seeing exactly what we're being told?
No, it never bothered me, and I miss it.
That has always bothered me
really?
from day one of reading comics. Yeah, It's like I hated that. It's like, come on.
I saw it as a compliment to the pictures, and I saw it as no different than if I was reading a book and I was visualizing what the narrator was saying in the book. Now what was happening, it was the same thing, but somebody else was showing me their image of what the narrator was saying. So I never really thought ill of it. And in today's world, I will say I don't know if it's the product of decompressed storytelling or anything like that, but there are times when I feel I need the narrator because I missed something, and then somebody mentions it in the dialogue like 3 pages later. I'm like, that's what happened? And I go back and I'm like, really? Then I'm not quite sure I got that from that. But okay, now that you mention it, now I get it. Yeah, so I don't know. That might just be because I'm not smart enough for comics these days. I don't know.
So when I read this earlier today, this story, this issue, George, the first thing that struck me was that costume that Sandman is wearing, that green outfit, which is not what I recall ever seeing on him. So I'm not sure what the history of that is.
I'm not either, although I think it was part of when he was with the Frightful Four, because he does make a mention that the wizard gave him a device on his belt so that he could quickly change from, say, just regular sand to something really hard, like a brick wall.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, because he's normally shown, I think, with just like a striped shirt, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, that doesn't look, super villainy enough. Right, so let's design a new costume. And then, of course, they incorporate, as you said, they incorporate this tech from the wizard that, he needs the costume for, I guess. But before we move on, the other thing I was curious about was, he appears on this beach, right? I'm like, does that, in the typical Marvel style, there was continuity there.
Yes.
So was there some thing that happened with the Sandman where he was trapped in the beach or in the ocean or something like that? And so I finally found it. There's some notes here. I don't know if you have these same notes, George, but
I know I do.
Okay. You want to tell the listeners then what?
No, go ahead. You do
it. So he apparently was dumped in the ocean by the Hulk in Incredible Hulk number 138.
Yep. And the reason I knew what you were looking at is because, Eric, I cheated on this one. Because I tend to get very wordy in my synopses, and I'm going to be wordy a little later. But I figured for this, I would use fandom.com, the Marvel database.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now.
So that, and so I'll give them credit, and I'll paraphrase, but it's better than you folks out there having to hear me try to put this all into words, because I was so engaged in the story and the dialogue, like I was so inspired to read those first 2 pages to you, that I felt that I would overwrite this one. So what I'm going to do is, this is a very true synopsis here. And again, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. This is on the Marvel database at marvel.fandom.com, and it goes as follows. And don't worry, Eric, I'll throw in a few little bits and pieces here. While covering a polar bear swim for the Daily Bugle, like what we just showed, Peter Parker's jolted out of his thoughts with the arrival of the Sandman on the beach. Now, I wonder if AI does this now. I don't even know. Changing into Spider-Man, Peter tries to stop the Sandman, but the villain proves to be too much for the hero to handle, and he escapes. Deciding that since the Sandman has been more of a Fantastic Four foe, Spider-Man decides to pay the Fantastic Four a visit at the Baxter Building. There he only finds the Human Torch, and the two agree to work together in trying to track down the Sandman. While tracking down their enemy, the Human Torch and Spider-Man stop thieves from stealing Christmas presents from a young woman. Now, I'm going to talk about this young woman a little later. Finally tracking down the Sandman, the two heroes try to stop him, but are knocked out and left inside a water tower while the Sandman escapes. Breaking free, the two track the Sandman down and learn that he broke out of prison to visit his sick mother for Christmas. Telling them that his mother doesn't know that he's a criminal, the two heroes agree to let the Sandman visit his own mother. Telling them that his mother doesn't know that he's a criminal, the two heroes agree to let the Sandman visit with his mother on the promise that he will return to prison. Spider-Man gives Sandman the gift he intended to give to Gwen Stacy, his girlfriend at the time, folks, to give to his mother. After the Sandman's allotted time is up, the two check out his mother's apartment and find that the Sandman escaped out the drain pipe. The two decide to accept their loss and celebrate the holidays before tracking down the Sandman again. There is no way I would have written such a succinct synopsis as that, but that's pretty much it. Now, I want to go back to the woman who they saved from a robbery. She's not named, but it turns out that woman is Misty Knight from the Iron Fist books. And the reason that they make a point of this is because, Eric, like you mentioned with continuity, she brings it up in an appearance in Marvel Team Up like 5 years down the line, where she says to Spider-Man that they've met before, and she references this incident. So in Marvel Team Up number 64, she makes reference to this, random thing. There is no way, I don't think, that anybody thought, we're just going to incorporate this character into the Iron Fist title. Somebody please remember, who remembered back then?
Well, it's funny you mention all that because I didn't recognize her as Misty Knight. Now it totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I also thought, here's this character that's getting a lot of panel time. So she must be somebody. I just don't know who it is. And so, maybe it's just retroactively.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Right.
That they did this. But that makes it kind of cool, too.
Yeah, it's amazing that they do stuff like that. And people do that today, especially with all the history that both Marvel and DC have. Writers are doing it all the time. A couple of things that did bounce out at me was Spider-Man and the Human Torch did thwart another incident. It really was just to avoid an accident. A truck was sliding on the ice. But the reason that didn't make it into that synopsis, I would guess, is because there wasn't the first appearance of some character in the truck.
There's a few things like that, right? Stopping the burglary, stopping that runaway truck, just to fill up a couple pages.
Oh, sure, yeah,
of the story, right? So it's like, okay, well, let's move the plot along.
Now, the reason Johnny Storm was alone at the Baxter Building, and it's still not 100% clear, but he was having girl trouble. But I don't know why that would have made him stay behind, because the girl trouble was with Crystal from the Inhumans, and again from this Marvel database. It says that the reason they had broken up in the Fantastic Four title was because the pollution in our air was making her sick. So she had to go back, I guess, to Adelan or wherever the Inhumans were at the time. And I don't know why that depression would have prevented him from going to where the rest of the Fantastic Four went to spend the holidays. That part wasn't really clear.
Other than he's a petulant teenager.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to hang out with anybody.
And he definitely was cool Scrooge-like to some people, like almost like bah humbugging people as he was helping them out. Mm-hmm. In fact, when he helped out that driver And the guy was saying, "Hey, thanks, Human Torch. Merry Christmas." And he's like, "Yeah, next time get better treads or something like that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what a jerk.
Mm-hmm. Some of the fun things, especially from a native New Yorker, a former New Yorker, were the references to the George Washington Bridge and the aerial view of Rockefeller Center, which I think everybody could appreciate because of the tree at Rockefeller Center. Everybody is kind of aware that it exists, whether or not they've been there before. I think they know Rockefeller Center from the lighting of the tree and even Saturday Night Live, because a lot of stuff does happen around that area for those things. So, I mean, that's kind of cool.
And George, the George Washington Bridge also the bridge that Gwen Stacy died on?
Yes, I believe, or was it the Brooklyn Bridge? I don't remember.
There's too many bridges.
But I will say this. Now, in the back of the book, even though there's no letters page or anything like that, there is a bullpen bulletins and a stand soapbox and all that other fun stuff. I did notice, and I was going to look this up, but luckily they put it in the book and I didn't have to use the interwebs for this. Amazing Spider-Man 106 was out at the same time as this. Gwen Stacy, spoilers folks, dies in the two-parter in Amazing Spider-Man 121 and 122. And there is a line on I think it's page 14. Let's see. Right here. As Spider-Man and the Human Torch are going to encounter the Sandman going to his mother's house, Spider-Man first admonishes Johnny Storm for the way he treated the truck driver, going, "Hey, man, lighten up a little bit. I know you have a girl trouble, but, it is Christmas time." So as they're trying to ambush Sandman on both sides, Spider-Man is thinking to himself, I shouldn't really blame the Torch for doing the Scrooge bit. If I ever lost Gwen, I'd cry humbug with the loudest of them. Well, so much for introspection. Looks like the man's got everything all set up for me. So anyway, I don't know if a year and a half prior to her dying, they knew they were going to kill her off. I don't know if they would have made that plan that far ahead back then. But it is interesting in retrospect how he said, boy, if I lost Gwen, I don't know what I would do. And basically a year and a half later, he does.
Who did you say wrote this?
Roy Thomas.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it was Jerry Conway who wrote the infamous Death of, right? So, okay.
So very
I'm guessing
interesting.
not.
I mean, that's anybody could say that about any loved one. I don't know what I would do if I lost so-and-so.
Right.
But just interesting to know. Now, I would have found it very interesting if this came out when, around the time of that story. And they were really setting, hinting toward it. But I mean, it really is
like a few monds before.
Yeah, this is like 15, 16 months ahead of time.
So one of the other things about this story, George, that when I read this, that I learned or was just surprised by was the mention of the Sandman being not a Spider-Man villain, but a Fantastic Four villain. In my reading mind, in my reading timeline, he's always been to me a Spider-Man villain. So I found that very interesting that apparently the Fantastic Four went up against him more at that time.
Yeah, and again, I think it really has to do with the Frightful Four, because that makes sense. Even then, Medusa at the time was part of the Frightful Four. What was it? Medusa, the Wizard, Sandman, and Paste Pot Pete, I guess, were the original ones. Comics historians out there, correct me if I'm wrong. I really don't.
I was going to say, I don't remember that at all. So,
but I did have fun revisiting this because when I bought this, unlike today, if I buy a back issue, I don't immediately read it because, we're older now, we have other things to do. But when I was a kid, if I bought this at a convention and something else, those suckers were being read, if not that same day, within a week. Mm-hmm. So I had read that before, but I probably haven't read it since it was first acquired.
Yeah, I love it when I'm able to revisit something like that.
Yeah,
and discover the fun of it, even if we are making fun of a little bit of the details here.
And at the time when I bought it, I probably was embroiled in, I don't know, maybe Marvel Team Up was in the 90s, the early 100s, so I was already 10, 12 years past this, so going back, you would have thought that I just don't recall having culture shock for something where the writing style was different, was at least a decade old. And I guess that's just because Marvel always did use that kind of slang, like, hey, forget about it, trying to be almost like actually they even say the Sandman sounds like an off-Broadway James Cagney, like trying to give you an idea of what he really sounds like, and the slang and the dialogue.
Which is not how his voice in my head when I read Sandman dialogue is not that.
Yes, I agree with you.
So that was very interesting. and also too, the last thing I want to say about the Sandman in this is that his wanting to see his mom.
Mm-hmm.
He's not, based on some other things I've read over the years, Sandman, where he appears in other comics, and in fact, a Marvel 2-in-1 with The Thing.
Yes,
where they're just having drinks in a bar,
mm-hmm.
right? Which is one of my favorite of the Marvel 2-in-1 issues.
They even revisited that when they did the recent Fantastic Four fanfare this year that they put out,
really?
Almost like in conjunction with the movie. I mean, that's the only reason I could think that title even existed. And each issue had 3 stories in it from all different eras of the Fantastic Four. And one of the stories, I wish I could remember, was it Mark Bagley who did the art? I don't remember who did the art, but it was The Thing and Sandman. And they were basically teaming up. What they were doing is they were getting together for some drinks. Something happens, they team up, they save the day, and then they go back to their drinks.
Yeah, and I really like how they present Sandman as he's not really a bad guy,
right.
Even though he's a thief and he roughs people up sometimes, and I'm trying to make excuses for a criminal, but I've always appreciated how they portray him as more sympathetic than some other Marvel villains, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's been, and I don't know if it started with this issue, but I read things after this,
mm-hmm.
and they've kept that somewhat consistent over the decades, and I like that.
The same thing seems to have happened, and I don't know if it's recent, but the way the Mole Man was treated not only in the movie but also again with the Fantastic Four fanfare. Sue and the Mole Man, I don't know which influenced what. I don't know if there was a story where like Sue had sympathy for the Mole Man's plight or whatever, or if it was just a movie thing. I don't know what influenced what. But there was a story about kind of like the Mole Man just being the misunderstood guy. And, some villains just have to stay villains, but I can understand maybe the Mole Man and Sandman, kind of shifting a little bit. Like shifting sand. Anyway, when it comes to a house ad, there's one house ad in the back. It says "Double Dynamite from Magnificent Marvel, more Marvel for your bread," and they were advertising Marvel Premiere #1 with the power of Warlock, the character of Warlock, and Tomb of Dracula #1. So 2 big, collectors today look back on these things. The first issue with Warlock as a main character, plus Dracula, Tomb of Dracula coming to Marvel. I do want to just mention a couple of things from the bullpen bulletins, but that's it for the Christmas part of the Marvel team up. But really quick, again, just to put things in perspective, in the bullpen bulletins, it says in the September 16th, 1971 issue of Rolling Stone magazine. So, folks, if you want to dig that out, they had at the time, quote, "the longest, grooviest article ever on the House of Ideas," end quote. The person who wrote the article, Robin Green, had previously worked at Marvel. So I guess that's why she approached Stan to do this article about Marvel and why it got, as many pages as it did, however long it was. And you got to consider in 71, the Marvel Age of Comics wasn't even 10 years old. So it was putting things into perspective. Also, in addition to that, now get this one, Eric, you're going to love this. John Romita Sr. had been on what was called the Larry Baer Talk Show on WABC radio in New York to talk about comics. He was on there with with 2 other comics people in the comics industry, but they don't say who they were in the bulletin, so I'm guessing they were from other companies. And of course, in the bullpen bulletin, they said all the callers who called in, all they wanted to talk was Marvel, Marvel, Marvel. So, I mean, I'm guessing somebody must have been from DC. Maybe, I don't know, Charlton. I don't even know who would have been around back then. But then Herb Trimpe, also very recently to that issue, did a cartoon for Esquire. So people could try to find that. They didn't give the issue number or anything like that. And in Stan's soapbox, he addressed the idea at the time, how does an artist break into comics? And this is the way it was back then. Basically, he told them, first of all, we have all the great artists here, and we can only put out so many titles. So you really have to do your homework. And we're not just going to take somebody off the street. You need to get your chops in maybe the book publishing world, advertising, and once you have that under your belt, draw us some draw some pages, but not just pinups and not just pictures of your favorite superhero. Show them doing things in the mighty Marvel manner. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he spent his soapbox doing that. There were 3 other debuts in the checklist that month. Amazing Adventures number 11 was starting. The Beast was now becoming the major character in Amazing Adventures. Also, in Creatures on the Loose number 16, they were starting the Warrior of Mars, which was Gulliver Jones, Robert E. Howard's Gulliver Jones. So that was something that they were promoting as another big, 2 other big debuts in addition to Marvel Team Up. And they said to follow up with Warlock and Dracula last month, these are our big debuts, get them, Well, that was Marvel Team Up number 1, volume 1, with Spider-Man and the Human Torch. Have yourself a Sandman Little Christmas.
Okay, so George, we go from sand to snow with my next choice. The Deviant, A Christmas Story. This is volume 1. This is from Image Comics. Contains the first 4 issues of the series, written by James Tynion IV. Joshua Hickson did the art, and Hassan Otzman Elhaud did the letters. This book was recommended to me by Sean Ross, whom I talked to several episodes ago. And in that conversation, and he recommended this as something for me and the listeners to read. And he called it one of the best books he's read. And so I reluctantly ordered it because of what it's about.
I'm afraid to ask, but I know you're going to tell us.
Yeah, and so here's the description from Image Comics for this volume. As snow falls over Milwaukee in 1972, a blood-stained Santa Claus commits unimaginable atrocities against young men. 50 years later, a troubled young writer interviews this so-called deviant killer. See? Turkey neck killer, deviant killer.
I was just about to say, I'm kind of getting the idea of this theme you were talking about, and you're making me very nervous, Eric.
Who still maintains his innocence from behind bars. And as Christmas approaches once again, the past returns wielding a sharpened axe. This story is a crime thriller that explores the intersection of queer identities and a broader scope of cultural transgression and deviance. And so, it's that whole blood-stained Santa Claus killing young men in gruesome ways. I just don't like that kind of stuff.
And Eric, I think I echo the listeners' sentiments. What happened this year? I know you moved, but what happened this year? This is a totally different Eric from last Gab Bag.
Yeah. Well, this, like I said, I read these comics this year, and they all just seem to have some things in common. Is all I'm going to say.
Maybe for Christmas, I've got to get you some gift certificates for therapy. Maybe, folks, if you want to get Eric anything for the holidays.
Yeah. So, all right. Anyway,
what did this move do to you?
So George can see this, but I'm going to describe because it's got this nice little cover image. You see a tall, thin man in a Santa suit standing in the snow holding his hat. He wears a white mask. It's kind of hard to see because he's in the distance. You can see the fake white Santa beard hanging below his chin as well. Behind him are leafless trees and power lines in the darkness. So it's kind of looks like a bit of a rural area. There's a light coming from the left of him, maybe an interior house light or maybe even car lights. It's not determined. But you see that, but he's looking right at you, George. He's looking right at you, the reader.
That is a very unsettling cover. I
Right?
have to say, I like the artwork, but it is very unsettling. I would think of this more for like Halloween, even though
Right?
he's just like Santa Claus, an emaciated Santa Claus.
It's as if he's just now decided to walk up the sidewalk towards your house. Anyway,
Dun dun dun.
you would appreciate this too, George, because
Would I, Eric? Would I really?
well, this part right here. This goes to the design of this trade collection because you open up and the first few pages, the title page looks like here's what looks like a chubby old Santa Claus from yesteryear.
Yeah.
And Image Comics presents, and you see all these candles and what do you call those green leaves? Holly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like old style Christmas paper.
Yeah, I mean,
Christmas
you're ready for the
wrapping
Yule
paper.
log and everything,
Right?
A cup of cocoa.
You go to the credits area, and again, you get more Santa Claus and chrysanthemums, and the text is in red, because it's Christmas stuff, right?
Yeah, almost like a Christmas card.
And then you turn the page, and this is right after the copyright page.
Gosh.
George, I'm going to show you. You see, you see that the Deviant Killer has indeed turned up and is walking towards your house. And he's closer. I mean, what a great way to present that between the cover and these first few frontispieces.
Oh.
And then we get into the comic book proper. But I just thought it was so well done. Mm-hmm. So well done. So I'm going to be giving... I'm going to talk about all 4 comics. The first one, there's a lot more to set up. So that synopsis is going to be a little bit longer. But the rest of them are I'm just going to give like the highlights because the goodness of a serial killer comic, the goodness of these issues are the characters and the mystery of it. Who is the Deviant Killer? Is it this guy or is it that guy? That whole interplay. Think of any serial killer movie that you've ever watched where the good guy is trying to figure out what the serial killer is up to, and it's a game of cat and mouse, et cetera, right? All that stuff is in here, but there's much more to it to me, and I'll get to that at the end after I talk about what these issues are about. And then if you have any thoughts, George, just go ahead and interrupt me. So, in issue 1, we're introduced to Michael, the young writer mentioned earlier. He's shown at a mall at Christmas time and tells his boyfriend Derek that because he can't make wrapping paper line up correctly, that there's something wrong with him. There's a flashback to 1973 where a Macy's worker finds a man tied to the Santa chair where Santa was taking pictures with kids all day long with blood covering him. Elsewhere, police have responded to a call and find young boys who have been mutilated, tied up in the form, I'm sorry, George, a Christmas tree, ribbon and lights tied all around them. And that is, I don't know if I want to show it to you. I know how you don't like that stuff either.
That's okay. You can show it to me.
Let me see if I can find it real quick. But I mean, it's so gruesome, and yet, it's like...
It sounds almost like... You're never going to believe, but I used to watch the Hannibal TV
Oh, really?
show. Yeah, and I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's just like
when Hannibal would, when the murderer would almost make a prop out of the victim or the victims, kind of like this over here. That's what that's reminding me of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. One of the cops spots someone in the distance and runs towards them. It's the Deviant Killer, the one that I described on the cover of this collection. And he attacks the cop with an axe, cutting his face rather severely. Now, in the present day, Michael is in a prison interviewing Randall, the man who was convicted of being the Deviant Killer. Randall wants to know why Michael is there, knowing it's more than just the comic book story Michael wants to produce out of this history that has occurred. Michael tells him that when he first found out about Randall's crime was the first time he'd heard about gay men. Randall says to him, quote, "It was a relief, wasn't it? You were a little queer boy, and you start getting the sense that there's something wrong with you. Then you find out there are other people in the world who are just as wrong as you are. And no matter what horrible thing they did, you know that you're not the only monster in the world." The issue then ends in the modern day with a mall elf person working at the department store encountering the Deviant Killer 50 years later.
Okay.
So in issue 2, Michael interviews the cop, the one that I mentioned before that got cut by the Deviant Killer. Later, when Michael talks to Randall again, he tells him that he wants to make this comic not to exonerate Randall, but to talk about seeing himself in it. So things are starting to, at this point, you're kind of questioning: is there something really wrong with Michael? Is he just a young, depressed person that needs some therapy or something, right? Or what's going on here? In issue 2, also, an FBI agent is now investigating the latest Deviant Killer murder. The cops there show him Michael's driver's license that was found near the scene. Uh-oh. In issue 3, Paul, the cop who was attacked by the Deviant Killer in issue 1, sees the news about the killer's latest victim and leaves his house with a gun. We see what happened to Paul after he left the hospital in 1973. He went to talk to a suspect, someone that the police had interviewed that had an association with the Mall Santa personnel and whatnot, who was Randall, of course, discovered some pictures Randall had taken of the victims at Randall's apartment. And Paul brutally attacks Randall. In the present, the FBI agent awaits Derek at his home, asking where Michael is. In issue 4, after Michael has talked to Randall some more and is outside of the prison, he's attacked by Paul, because Paul thinks that Michael is the Deviant Killer, echoing what he did to Randall 50 years prior. Back at Derek's apartment, FBI agent Hall, I forgot to mention his name earlier, questions Derek and finds a bloody Santa suit in Michael's closet. So at this point, George, who do you think the Deviant Killer is? Based on these clues that I've handpicked for you.
Oh, I have no idea who it is. I'm not even going to hazard a guess.
So I actually originally thought about covering both volumes, because it's both volumes are a story, right? So it's just collected in 2 parts.
Oh, so there's no resolution in this one?
That's it. It ends on that revelation that Michael, in Michael's closet, is that bloody Santa suit.
I see. Okay.
So his ID was found at the scene of a crime. There's the bloody Santa suit. Anyway, so you got. Are you
going to make everybody wait for volume 2 for next Gab Bag? Gab Bag 2026?
I just might. Like I said, the story concludes in the next volume, and it goes for 8 or 9 issues, or 10 issues. I don't remember. Anyway, I think it's 9. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But I was hooked. Like I said, I reluctantly jumped into this because Sean said it was really good, and by the time that then I ordered the first volume, and then when I was done, I was like, oh well, I gotta get the next one, because like I said, it's more about examining like the otherness in our society throughout these issues, and it's not just, and I don't just mean like serial killer otherness. I mean what gay men are thought about by a certain segment of the population, and just what they have to go through, on a daily basis, being judged for, who they love. Right. So I just really I just really like when stories, not just comic book stories, but when stories do this. And I think comic books do a really great job of examining this kind of stuff, because you get to see. That's one of the things I love about comics, is that you're being shown one thing and maybe being told another
Right.
in the narrative, right? And so you get that that dichotomy of ideas on the page. And then there's this wonderful intersection of presents, as in Christmas presents. For example, the Deviant Killer has left presents because he's Santa, and how we present ourselves. Like
Yeah.
with Michael, the way some of the things, that's why I pointed out some of the things that he said to various people in this. So it's just like Tynan the Fourth is just, this might be my favorite thing that he's done that I've read. And I've read a lot of good things that he's done. The Department of Truth, maybe. I was thinking that was my favorite of his works until this. So
Shoma is spot on in recommending this to you.
Yes, I do. I do think that people should read this book. I also wanted to highlight Hickson's art in this, because he does a great job, for one, coloring snowy nights, which is very difficult to do in comics, I think.
Yeah.
And he does an excellent job. Plus, not only that, but Christmas lights, as we saw on the cover there, the headlights or whatever. But I showed you the image of the young boys that were in the Christmas tree form. You know, just the lights of the lights that were wrapped around them. The stark contrast between the dark. There's a lot of dark scenes in this book, but then with those soft lights of Christmas bulbs, right? Remarkable job there. And then the emoting that Hickson has the characters show throughout the book, right? We got, for example, Michael's overall blandness, and then the fury of Paul when he attacks Michael later in the issue. It's just well done.
You showed me the Christmas tree made out of the bodies. Did the same artist do that cover image and the other image where Santa Claus is closing in on the reader?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that light, the coloring, I guess the same person did the coloring. If it wasn't him, it was somebody else. But so that coloring from the cover carries over into the issue for those snowy scenes and things like that, like you're saying?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I certainly hope that you have something a little bit lighter for our listeners.
Oh, no. Just that, Thanksgiving from Ahoy was a big surprise, but I did know this one was coming up. So in order to keep it all kind of like in the same theme, I have from 1957, Christmas in Disneyland. Just as horrific, if not more so, than The Deviant. Well, this is a Del Giant comic. It does say number 1 on it. I don't believe there were any others. I'm not sure. I didn't look it up. But it is Walt Disney's Christmas in Disneyland from 1957, a 25-cent cover price. I don't know if this was 100 pages or 85 pages, but there is a lot of content here for your quarter for back in 1957. If you were a kid and you saw this on the spinner rack or on the rack with all the magazines, and you could drop a quarter on this book for how thick it is, I mean, you would have had a lot of fun, especially around the holidays, reading this, or if you found this in your stocking. Now, to put things in perspective, before we get into this, Disneyland opened in the summer of 1955. So Disneyland had only existed about 2.5 years before this came out. I'm guessing maybe it also served as some sort of an advertisement for Disneyland, but I was surprised how subtle the references to Disneyland really are in here. Because Disneyland is more of a framing device for Christmas-themed adventures with other characters. One would have to guess that it's really like a reprint book with the Santa in Disneyland at Christmas time being a framing device to connect everything.
Are you saying this reprints Disney comics from that came out within those 2 years?
No. Well, I mean, Disneyland may have existed for 2 years, but Disney comics had been coming out in the 40s. So, I'm thinking perhaps these comics that are in here, the stories in here originated elsewhere and could be found elsewhere.
Okay.
There's no indication of that. I didn't look anything beyond. I went to the Overstreet Price Guide to see if it would have said reprint in it, but it did make a point of saying, I think it said something like 18 pages by Barks. I'm guessing Carl Barks. And I didn't count how many pages were the Disneyland, but that would make sense if there were 18 pages of Disneyland content and then everything else was reprints. Because I can't imagine that these stories in here were created specifically for this. And knowing how publishing was, there was a lot of reprints. So on the cover, you have headshots of Mickey, Donald, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Uncle Scrooge, and Chip and Dale. On the back, I mean, there are no ads in here, by the way. On the back, you have some Disney characters ice skating around a castle, not necessarily, well, it wouldn't be Cinderella's castle. Well, it would be Aurora's castle, the one in Disneyland. I don't think, maybe that's supposed to represent Aurora's castle. I'm not sure, but they're ice skating around the castle.
Is that Rudolph in the background?
Oh yeah. I think that's just a deer.
Okay, I couldn't tell if the nose. You're right. Okay, I couldn't tell if the nose was colored red or not. So,
getting back to the cover, though, those headshots of the Disney characters frame a live photo, a photo of Aurora's castle with a lit red Christmas tree. Like there's a red light on it.
Yeah, it looks completely red to me with a little bit of lights at the edges. Mm-hmm. And when you were holding it up earlier, George, and talking about it, the way the camera and lighting and whatnot, it looked like it was kind of shimmering to me for a second. It had this weird kind of 3D quality to it. So that was really cool.
That is so subtle compared to how Disneyland, Disney World, any other Disney park decorates for the holidays. I can only imagine how it might have even been classy, for lack of a better term, and maybe a little more down-home-ish, how Disneyland was decorated for the holidays in those first couple of years. In fact, that's actually kind of quaint.
It makes me want to go on YouTube and see if anybody's posted like pictures or video taken at that time.
Old photos at that time. Yeah, that would be great. I'll bet you our friend Rob Shade, who works at Disneyland, who has immersed himself in Disney history ever since he started to be a cast member there. I wonder if there are forums of people who maybe used to work there generations ago, or maybe the original people that might have slides or something of this that have stuff online. So I'll have to check with him. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm not going to focus on every story, although I will mention every story in here. The inside front cover is just a picture of, a drawing of Santa with his 8 reindeer and a nice little Christmas poem. The title of the story for the whole issue is called Christmas in Disneyland. And Taffy and Timmy write a note to Santa telling him they want no toys. And Santa is reading this note when he goes to fill their stockings. What they want is a trip to Disneyland. Now, Eric, first of all, we all know you don't just get a trip to Disneyland unless you win the Super Bowl. That doesn't happen.
or gold in the Olympics.
Yeah, right. Yes. Mm-hmm. So he agrees, and he takes them along on his sleigh since he has to drop gifts off at Disneyland anyway. As they fly over Disneyland, so this is the only aerial shot so it's almost like if you had a map of the parks, but it's very, very sparse. Showing a castle, teacup ride, whatever was showing. And I'm guessing they thought, okay, we're not going to blatantly say, come to Disneyland, but this is supposed to whet people's appetite that Disneyland is a great place to go. It's brand new. Here's what the park looks like. And Timmy and Taffy Santa's taking Timmy and Taffy over there. So as they fly over Disneyland, they land in Adventureland. and they hop on the Jungle Cruise. And Santa name drops Donald Duck while he's on the cruise. And Timmy asks Santa to tell him a story about Donald. The story he tells is this. Donald, Uncle Scrooge, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie sailed to a desert island a couple of days prior to Christmas in search of the fabled black pearls. Now, on this island, there is a volcano in the middle that erupts twice a day. And it erupts at high tide. Their boat gets caught in the tide and gets jammed in a tunnel leading to the base of the volcano. I mean, like it does, right? Donald, Uncle Scrooge, and those ducks always get into these crazy adventures. The ducks build a hut as Uncle Scrooge collects all the black pearls they can, and they settle in as castaways. When low tide comes, they're able to get on the boat and get some supplies, including a case that Uncle Scrooge was really concerned about during the whole trip. They realize the volcano hasn't erupted since their arrival, and they realize that the water at high tide hits molten lava within the volcano, causing the volcano to erupt. And because their boat has jammed that access to the tunnel, the water is not getting in, and that's why the volcano isn't erupting. So they say, oh, well, we can get our boat out if we climb to the top of the volcano and we stop it like with almost like with a cork. We drop a boulder in that's heavier than our boat so that the pressure will make our boat fly out. And of course, they're successful in this.
Yes, the old cartoon trick of plugging a volcano. Yes,
that and
makes total sense.
And it just so happens that the boulder happens to be at the top of the volcano, that they can just drop into the into the volcano. What winds up happening is not only does the boat get ejected, but the volcano erupts, but it erupts out the sides. And what happens is a bunch of white ash falls upon the island like snow. And then Uncle Scrooge says, well, this is going to be our white Christmas. Give me that package that give me my suitcase that I was so worried about. And of course, within the suitcase are toys, candies, presents. So they wind up celebrating Christmas on a deserted island in the South Seas, as the ducks do. Now, from the Jungle Cruise docks, and now Santa, Taffy, and Timmy head to a stagecoach so Santa can ride to drop gifts off at some of the teepees.
Oh, boy.
And I'm guessing it's Frontierland. They don't specifically say it's Frontierland. Oh, and I looked it up. Originally at Disneyland, they had Main Street USA, Adventureland, Frontierland, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing it has to be Frontierland where they were. A comic book drops out of Santa's sack while he's delivering the presents to
appropriate
to the Indians, right? It's Mickey Mouse and Goofy in the Iron Horse to Lonesome Gulch. So he tells the kids, read the comic while I'm delivering these gifts. And in the comic, Mickey and Goofy are the engineers on a train taking the Christmas payroll to the miners at Lonesome Gulch. They get ambushed by Black Pete's gang, who put a huge boulder on the tracks. It's at a point where there's a bridge. The boulder is like right at the head of a bridge before they were going to cross the bridge. So Mickey stops the train before they can get over the bridge. The bandits ambush them, and they say things like, okay, boss, Mouse, throw out the loot, to implicate Mickey is in cahoots, and it's an inside job. Also, the boulder that caused Mickey to stop the train, that only he saw, has vanished. Dun, dun, dun. So Mickey is arrested. Goofy bails him out. They go to the bridge to investigate. While Mickey's looking for clues and contemplating what the heck happened and trying to figure out, how am I going to avoid going to jail for this, Goofy starts to fish, and he snags a rubber tarp. And they realize that the rubber tarp has something to do with the shenanigans that went on with the bandits. Mickey takes Mr. Clinker, the train owner, on a ride to the bridge to try to recreate what happened. Mr. Clinker is skeptical until he sees the boulder on the tracks. But it's just the inflated tarp. Mickey has proved his innocence, but now to set a trap for the gang. So basically, it was a balloon that looked like a boulder, fooled Mickey. He stopped the train. But when he was trying to show Mr. Clinker, he ran into the boulder and it just bounced. So showing what had happened. And they realized that somebody went under the bridge, deflated the boulder, hit it in the water so as to frame Mickey for an inside job.
You know, it occurs to me, George, that comic book writers coming up with stories like this, and also cartoon writers, right? Mm-hmm. They could have rented themselves out to vast criminal organizations across the world to come up with these, or for them to use these highly convoluted ways to trick people out of their money or whatever.
And they would have gotten away with it too, because most people do not have a friend like Goofy who would just start fishing for lunch.
Right.
And they would have fished the tarp out of the water. We'd be talking about it now as one of those unsolved mysteries on some true crime podcast right now in today's world.
Yeah.
An article is planted in the newspaper about unseasonably warm weather bringing out fishermen. Pete reads this and sends his 2 henchmen to fish out the tarp because anyone can find it. You know, if everybody's fishing, he's like, uh-oh, they're going to find our tarp. Go get it. But as his 2 henchmen go to do that, he double crosses them and leaves with the loot from the train. The henchmen are caught while Pete hijacks a train and encounters a real boulder on the tracks. But of course, he thinks it's a fake and he crashes into it and is subdued.
So the Roadrunner effect.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
To bring in a competing cartoon franchise.
As Mickey and Goofy take the train out again to deliver the payroll, the steam from the engine spells out Merry Christmas. So from Frontierland, Santa and the kids ride the spinning rocket ride in Tomorrowland. And before the ride can take off, Santa sits on some acorns, making him think of Chip and Dale. And he says, oh, they must have been on the ride and left these acorns behind. And he regales the kids with a tale about the chipmunks. Chip and Dale want to, and this one has a lot of guest stars, Eric, so that's why I'm focusing on this one too. Chip and Dale want to sing carols and spread Christmas cheer, but they need Jiminy Cricket, of all people, who has been caught by Brer Bear. Yikes, right? The Song of the South, right? So we have all sorts of crossovers here. You got Pinocchio, you got Song of the South. Brer Bear wants Jiminy Cricket to teach him how to be Santa so he can get all the cookies that people leave out for Santa. They trick Brer Bear into thinking he has graduated Santa school, but Brer Fox comes along, takes Jiminy Cricket, and he wants Jiminy to tell him why Santa didn't bring him any gifts last year. And if Santa doesn't come this year, Jiminy is in trouble, like physical danger from Brer Fox. Brer Bear tries to trick Brer Fox that he is Santa, but when he tries to go down the chimney, he knocks out the fox, and the bear decides he's going to give up his dream to be a Santa, and he joins Chip, Dale, and Jiminy singing carols, and he winds up eating all the sweets that people give them. The end. Santa and the kids go on the Skyway ride, and there's a bone addressed to Scamp that falls out of Santa's sack. And he says a hero like Scamp deserves an extra big bone, and he tells the kids why. So Scamp gets into the trouble as he tries to find a Christmas gift for his parents. His parents are Lady and the Tramp, if you didn't know who Scamp's parents were. He's grounded to his doghouse, and he overhears his parents say that they just want to be proud of Scamp. So he sneaks out to do something to make his parents proud for Christmas. That's going to be his Christmas gift to his parents.
By sneaking out.
By sneaking out, but to do something to make them proud. Maybe the sneaking out would have just made them proud and he wouldn't get into these hijinks. I don't know. So he hops on a bus headed to the mountains to join the St. Bernard rescue dogs. He'll be a Scamp Bernard. The St. Bernards don't want this little scamp on their team, and they run fast to lose him up the mountain. And as Scamp is alone now because the other dogs went ahead of him, Scamp saves a skier and a mountain climber in distress. And the St. Bernards see this, and they go, okay, He's making us look bad. We got to get rid of this dog. So they run after him and chase him. And he's like, come on, guys, I'm just trying to help people here. They run over an ice bridge, and it partially collapses under the weight of all the St. Bernards, trapping them on the other side of the ice bridge. Well, Scamp is light, so Scamp can go back across the bridge, gets a rescue helicopter to pick up the St. Bernards, and saves the day. Scamp returns home and tells his parents about his adventures, and of course they think he was dreaming and tell him that they were too hard on him. All they want is for him to enjoy being a pup. The end.
So what kind of lesson are they
Is there
trying
a
to
lesson there?
teach the kids that are reading this book?
I don't know. If you're grounded, well, if a kid is grounded, they're not being sent to a doghouse. Hopefully they're not on the second floor. Because if they're going to hop out their window, you don't want anything bad to happen, right? So maybe they're climbing out their window, stowing away on a bus to some unknown place, so basically running away, to try to join, well, I guess a human might, what are you going to do? Join the French Foreign Legion? I don't know. What are you going to join? What are you going to join? Oh. All right, so here's another one. So while riding the Fantasyland circus train, Santa explains why the Big Bad Wolf is actually getting a present this year. While on his shoveling rounds, the Little Bad Wolf runs into, wait for it, Brer Bear. He asks Little Wolf why his father bought the following from his general store. A big electric fan, a beat-up lawnmower, and half a barrel. So Little Wolf conjures up in his head that his father is making him a snowplow for Christmas so shoveling will be easier for him. Those would be the things that one would use to make a snowplow.
Of course.
But instead, the Big Bad Wolf is making a sledmobile to travel up the mountain to get the 3 little pigs. So he goes off on his sledmobile. Brer Bear stops by the house and tells Little Wolf that his 2 children are missing. Turns out they're stuck in a pile of snow. So Little Bad Wolf and Brer Bear go out to try to find Brer Bear's kids. Meanwhile, the Big Bad Wolf crashes into a tree and it knocks him out. But it causes his sledmobile to go in reverse. So what was propelling his sledmobile was the giant fan in the back. So now he's going in reverse. The fan is in the front. And what is it doing? It's clearing a path of snow so that the little kids can get out of the snow that they're stuck in. Little Wolf, when he finds his dad, thinks that the vehicle that crashed was the snowplow and that his father was being heroic and saved the kids. And of course, a confused Big Bad Wolf has no idea what happened. And Brer Bear, because he's so happy, he helps Little Wolf put the pieces back together, but makes it into a snowplow. And while the Big Bad Wolf has no idea what happened, for some reason, Santa still believes that he deserves gifts this year, even though he really didn't do anything heroic on his own.
Exactly.
So I think Santa got played there.
Or it tells children it's okay to do bad things because Santa
will still reward you.
Is, not quite there.
Right. Santa's not too smart. What a bad message. Anyway.
Right?
Guess who's going to be in this story now? On the Peter Pan ride, Santa tells the kids how he met Captain Hook once and how he almost made the Lost Boys lose out on the presents one year. Uh-oh, here we go. So Santa couldn't find Neverland and asked Captain Hook for directions of all things. Captain Hook recognizes Santa Claus and realizes what he wants, why does he want to get to Neverland? So he sends Santa on a wild goose chase, sending him in total opposite direction. His goal is to get to Neverland before Santa does so he could ambush him. And he tells Peter Pan that Peter must catch the crocodile who is always after him, and then Peter must leave Neverland forever, or else he won't release Santa and no one will get their toys. So a little bit of guilt, and Peter Pan's like, well, what do I'm going to have to do it. So after a scuffle with the crocodile, Tinkerbell sprinkles pixie dust on the crocodile. Now, pixie dust, if you remember, Eric, will only work if somebody has happy thoughts, and it will make them fly. Well, it worked on the crocodile because getting Captain Hook is a happy thought for a crocodile.
I figured.
So the crocodile's floating over to the boat and crashes through the boat, the side of the boat, and chases Captain Hook. He hides somewhere in the hull, and the kids, Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, save Santa Claus, and Santa's able to not only deliver the gifts to the Lost Boys, but he can go on his rounds. While on the Seven Dwarfs coaster, you see where this is going? Santa tells the kids a story about the dwarfs. Now, they were writing letters to Santa telling about all their good deeds for the year. But all their good deeds were around getting Dopey out of trouble. So the problem is, while they all did their good deeds to get Dopey out of trouble, Dopey kept getting in trouble, so he couldn't think of any good deeds that he did. So Snow White suggests to the dwarfs, hey, let's let Dopey's good deed be, he'll mail your letters to Santa. Let him go to the post office to mail your letters. But the thing is, none of them trust that Dopey will be able to stay focused enough. You know, one of the ADD characters out there, he won't stay focused enough to get to the post office. So the dwarves follow him, but they get into their own little hijinks and they wind up getting hurt. And Dopey never gets to the post office because the dwarves get sidetracked with all their other shenanigans. The dwarfs come in all banged up, and they say, oh no, your good deed is going to be you're going to nursemaid us because we need to be nursed back to health. So that was the Seven Dwarfs Christmas. So now it's time to bring Timmy and Taffy home. A bunch of puzzles and games fall out of Santa's sack, and he tells the kids to keep them, but look at them tomorrow. You've already had a very long day. Santa tucks the kids into bed. More presents magically appear in their stockings, and Santa continues his rounds. And the puzzles and games that fell out of his sack are the puzzle pages that appear in the back of the book after the story ends.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So it says something like, okay, now you can do the puzzles that fell out of Santa's sack, at the end of the book. So I have a couple of lessons that I garnered out of this, Eric.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, even though they went to these different lands and you got that aerial map shot of Disneyland, Santa does say that they haven't seen everything, indicating that whatever little bit that they've shown of Disneyland throughout these framing devices is only the tip of the iceberg for those who are, for the selling point, I guess. Me being the cynical adult looking at this, whereas really it was also subtle. It's really not selling Disneyland. I mean, in a sense it is, but it really wasn't hitting you in the face. Although I guess as a little kid, all you needed to do was see that cover and go, Mommy, Daddy, I want to go to Disneyland next year.
Yeah. And look at what's there.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, though. Much like you said, kids, go ahead, do whatever you want because Santa is, not really paying attention. He's not all there. The kids specifically told Santa at the beginning of the story, we don't want any toys. We just want to go to Disneyland, which Santa did for them. But in addition to that, not only did they get the toys and the games and puzzles at the end of the book that you can do too, that fell out of his sack, they got their stockings full of presents. So in addition to the presents, they got a trip to Disneyland? Now, I don't know. There's something, but what is it about, what did they have on him? Did they have something on Santa? Is something going on? Now, the puzzle pages are fun. Not only they're puzzles, but they're little games, like little board games that you could play. And again, even though this came out when I was about 32, 33 when this came out, I didn't buy it when it first came out. I did buy this on the secondary market. I did buy it this year. I was looking at Disney stuff and I saw this and I'm like, Gab Bag, come on. Disney and Christmas, I've got to get this one. Not like I don't have enough Christmas comics in the Boiler Room studio anyway. So I did purchase this year, and whoever owned this before did do the word puzzles, which is not. I don't have a problem with that. It's nice to see that.
Well, it's not like you were going to do it.
Yeah, no. Well, I was going to do it.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I already cut out the Christmas party place cards, Eric. Come on. And let's see. I've already made the gift tags that Chip and Dale made over here. No, but I mean, I wouldn't mind even though I know what the picture and the connect the dots thing is, I wouldn't mind photocopying this or taking a picture of it and then just seeing exactly what it would look like, how it would look. But I'm not going to do that. But anyway, for a quarter, a kid couldn't go wrong with this around the holidays. Really, I mean, this was a lot of fun.
What'd you say, 57?
Yeah. And the artwork, it's just typical Disney artwork. And to start it off with a duck adventure like that really was a lot of fun. Now, if you notice, I didn't mention Minnie, Daisy, Pluto. Well, that's because they were made into a Christmas tree a la the Deviant, which is very disturbing. And they didn't tell that story.
Ooh.
Anyway, next.
Well, it's funny you say that because we kind of get that in my next choice.
Oh gosh. Oh, folks, don't forget, for Christmas or even Eric's birthday, gift certificates for therapy. No therapy places are sponsored.
So this is a comic book from Image that came out in 2007, but I got it this year. And I got it from Peter Rios from Comic Geek Speak and the Daily Rios. So he had this. So at the CGS 20th, when we all got together in fellowship, the geeks were there to sell some of their stuff, whether it was comics or collectibles. So I was looking through Peter's short boxes that he'd brought there, and I found this one. And of course, George, I had to get it because, and I had to remind him, because he's like, why are you getting that one? I said, well, for the Gab Bag with George at the end of the year. And he goes, oh, of course. And that is Archibald Saves Christmas. This is by Dwight L. McPherson, writer, artist, and the creator of Archibald. Archibald Aardvark is Grant Bond, and the letterer was Jason Hanley. So, the description for this.
That was a pretty cool cover, too.
Yeah. I'll describe it here in a minute. Archibald Aardvark went insane after the brutal murders of his brother and friends. More like co-workers. After spending 5 delirious years chewing on his tongue in a mental hospital, which I
almost spit take there.
I saw that. Yeah.
Some water. Yeah.
I'm sorry. That is so bad. Archibald finds himself back on the spiraling streets of Tinseltown. Desperate and alone, Archibald has 2 choices: catch a psychopathic murderer. Okay, now do you see the theme, George? Or blow his brains.
Icicles, holly, red berries, and snow. That's what this is.
Or blow his brains on a wall at the Hopeless Hotel. The only problem is he may have to do one to accomplish the other. Retailer warning: may not be suitable for all ages.
What kind of warning is going on this episode? Oh my goodness. The first adults, mature content only episode of Long Box Review.
So you mentioned, what was the character you mentioned? He's the character in Disney cartoons that is often the adversary.
Black Pete.
Yeah, Pete. That's right. Mm-hmm. So on the cover of this is a Pete-looking or a demonic-looking Pete.
Yeah.
Striped shirt with these many sharp teeth, red eyes, little tiny bowler hat with a flower on it, though, holding a knife, and he looks like he's about ready to plunge it into Santa Claus, who is now. I should have mentioned that it's a mostly black and white cover with red as a highlight color. But Santa himself is in all color. And then there is Archibald the Aardvark in one of the corners here, being kind of there along. And behind them are all these skeletons literally spiraling down on the cover, going into, I don't know, hell or whatever it is. I don't know, but yeah,
it's reminiscent of the skeleton dance cartoon that always pops up around Halloween.
Yes,
on social media.
Yeah.
That's what the skeletons are reminding me of.
Okay, good.
Yeah, doing a spiral dance.
And I want to show George this, but also describe it for everybody. So on the inside cover is a Merry Melodies like logo, but showing Archibald Aardvark, his face, and with the words "Howdy, howdy, chum." So you could guess that they're going for a cartoon like experience here with this
And is the
tale.
whole thing retro-ish like that?
It is. If you think about a black and white, what was that movie? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That's what I'm trying to think of. That's exactly how this is presented. It'll make more sense when I give you the synopsis here. But okay. Yeah, I have it in my notes. Well, that was dumb. What if there was a sort of Christmas sequel to Who Frames Roger Rabbit? This one shot is called Barnyard Banter because that's the name of the movie that we are seeing being produced in the moment and in the first few pages, and opens with Rascal Rooster, an actor who gets upset at the incompetent animals he works with and storms off the set. He ends up at Stymie's bar, where he encounters Archibald Aardvark, who proceeds to tell Rascal how he and his brother, Before the Mouse, were the toast of Tinseltown until that fateful night when Andre, his brother, was killed. So it was very appropriate, George, that you pulled out a Disney comic. Mm-hmm. And I kind of figured that might happen. I thought that you might have one of those as your choices. So I thought, if he does, this is a perfect opposite number, if you will.
Mine had less murder and mayhem.
Yes. Anyway, Archibald goes back to his room at the Hopeless Hotel and decides to off himself.
Well, I mean, everybody loves It's a Wonderful Life, right? Isn't that what George Bailey's trying to do?
That's right. See? Just then, a letter from Neptune Radio Studios is delivered and Archibald falls asleep. He dreams of other murders, similar to his brother's, on subsequent film shoots of his, which presumably led him to being arrested and thrown in the loony bin. The art here shows various people and animals getting stabbed or bludgeoned to death. And the blood in this scene is colored red. And like I said, it's a black and white comic to accentuate the tragedy. Here's a splash page of Archibald remembering his dead brother. And there's all this splashes of red everywhere because, his brother got stabbed. But then curiously, there's the word red in red. Mm-hmm. Painted presumably with Andre's blood on the wall behind him. The next morning, a driver from the studio picks up Archibald and delivers him to Mr. Big Shot. I love this. These are the kind of the names you would hear in a cartoon, right? Mm-hmm. Who offers him a new movie deal starring with, of course, Santa Claus.
Of course.
And this is the real Santa, not some actor playing Santa, because he mentions needing to get the film made quickly so he can get back to the North Pole to supervise the lazy elves before they ruin Christmas. With them there is Baron von Badger, who's directed every film Archibald had done previously. He enters the office, letting Archibald know he'll be directing this one as well. After von Badger takes Archibald down to the makeup room to get him started, Santa and Mr. Big Shot discuss the potential danger of having Archibald on the set. But as Mr. Big Shot tells Mr. Neptune of Neptune Radio Studios, who's on the phone with him, what's a few dead bleep if we can cash in on his notoriety? To which Santa has a bit of a concerned look on his face.
Right.
Archibald's in the makeup chair. He complains of a headache, so Von Badger gives him a homemade remedy. 2 red pills that dissolve in the glass. Mm-hmm. While Archibald drinks it down, Von Badger looks at him menacingly in the background. He tells Archibald to go to his trailer until they're ready for him. Archibald is stumbling about, heading to his trailer, and Santa helps him get there. Archibald falls asleep and dreams of his brother's killer attacking Santa. This killer looks a lot like on the cover here, a cross between a demonic Pete from Disney and or maybe Bluto from Popeye, sort of a mashup.
Oh, yeah, I can
of
see
those
that,
two.
yeah.
Yeah. Curiously, you see Von Badger is in the dream as well in various places as the dream goes on. When Archibald awakens, he rushes over to Santa's trailer and finds him dead.
Dong, dong, dong.
Santa is dead, which takes me back, real quick aside, takes me back to my youth when my parents took me and my siblings over to our Uncle Pete, Pete's house. And so at some point during the night, we were all looking up at the sky to see Santa flying overhead, and Pete came out and announced that he had shot Santa. So we weren't going to be seeing him.
Now it all makes sense. Gab Bag 2025. It all makes sense.
This is why I need therapy, George.
So this is the therapy.
Anyway, so he, like I said, Archibald awakens. He rushes over to Santa's trailer and finds him dead. And Von Badger standing over Santa's body with a knife. On the wall behind Von Badger is in red, ho, ho, ho. Archibald runs out of the trailer. Von Badger chasing him. A couple studio security guards stop Archibald, and he tells them what he saw, and they order Von Badger to drop the knife before they shoot him dead. They basically just don't even give him. They're like, drop it, and then bang, bang, bang. Later, the police tell Archibald that Von Badger is obviously the one who killed the previous victims, sort of going back to the cops in Thanksgiving. And you're like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Clearing Archibald once and for all the previous murders. Oh, I didn't mention this before because I didn't want to tip the hand, but Von Badger is shown as a stagehand in the flashback when Archibald tells Rascal Rooster about his brother's murder. So Von Badger was the person who got Andre off the set at that particular time. So, yes, that's my selections here. The theme, of course, being murder and blood and murder and whatnot. But I have questions about this. So it's like, because at the beginning of this, it tells us that he'll have to save Christmas, or the title is Archibald Saves Christmas, and he has two choices: catch the murderer or blow his brains on a wall.
Right?
Did he catch the murderer?
Oh,
how did he save Christmas? Santa's dead.
Interesting. Unless, does he become Santa?
Well, that would have to be the sequel, I guess.
Right? Yeah.
Because that's it. That's how the story ends.
That was it. Yeah, it's all left up to our imagination at that point.
And sort of like the Deviant Killer. So as Archibald is walking away from the dim-witted police officer, he says, "Finally, Andre, justice has been served. You can rest in peace now, brother, and I can get on with my life." He puts his hands in his pockets and starts walking. He goes, "What's this? Where did this come from? It doesn't matter. It's all over now." And he tosses it aside. And it's Von Badger's monocle with blood on it. So who was the killer?
Interesting.
This is more like confusing because the plot of this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you start
right, but having no resolution like that is, and plus what happened to Santa.
Yeah. So, George, top Santa being murdered.
Well, once again, to follow that up, I have got Christmas with Archie.
Mission accomplished.
Thank you and good night. But this isn't just any Christmas with Archie. So first of all, just to let you know, it came out in 1974. It was 49 cents. Had a 48-page special, no ads except for the publisher. And the publisher isn't Archie Comics.
Wait, what?
Yes, Eric. The publisher is Spire Christian Comics. Have you ever heard of them?
I have not.
I'm going to give you a little background here. I did a little research, stuff that I had already known that I wanted to confirm. You can find this stuff all online. Don't do a college dissertation on anything I'm about to say. But here we go. Al Hartley was a comic book artist. who worked with Stanley at Marvel when it was called Timely and then later was Atlas. During the course of his life, he became a born-again Christian, and he felt he could not work on some of the assignments that he was getting from the publisher, because the publisher was not only doing comics, but they were doing men's magazines with a little more adult fare, let's say. And being a born-again Christian, he could not do that. So he left, and he bounced back at Archie Comics. But because he was an artist and a writer, when he was writing his stories, he was throwing in some religious story beats, and they got a little more preachy than Archie was comfortable with, and they asked him to tone it down. At that time, artists weren't always contracted at one company, so I guess you can consider him freelance. And one of the places where he did freelance work was called the Fleming H. Revel Publishing Company. They would illustrate adaptations of popular Christian novels. It was an old company that would make books to help people lead a good Christian life. Those were the types of books that they had published for decades. And it was a good fit for Al Hartley. One branch of the company was dedicated to making books for everyday Christian life, and that was the Spire Comics. And Hartley got permission from John Goldwater, the publisher of Archie, to use Archie characters in Spire Comics. So it was a little relationship that they had, almost like in today's world where Dynamite will publish Darkwing Duck and DuckTales, even though Marvel Comics owns the Disney license. They'll license it out to another comic book company.
Yeah, but I thought they didn't particularly care for the heightened Christian tones.
Well, as long as it was published under the banner of Spire Comics, they were okay with it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't an Archie comic, although it was like a cross promotion. And if people saw this on the stands, maybe they would purchase another Archie comic. And let's face it, Archie comics in and of themselves aren't offending comics. They just don't have the message that a Spire comic would have. In general, these Archie books are renowned for some biased, even racist views of non-Christian cultures and those who are not Caucasian, unfortunately. And it is evidenced a little bit in this book. There are other ones out there. There are some people listening who probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll give you some of the names of the other ones. There's Archie's Love Scene, which you wouldn't think would be a Christian Spire comic, but I'm guessing it is. There's one called Archie's One Way, and
oh my God.
I'm guessing the one way is to Jesus.
Of course, it has to be.
There's a book, Archie's Jalopy. The comic is about his car, just his car, and other Archie's Clean Slate. I'm not quite sure what that was about, but there are other Archie titles under this umbrella. I think maybe there were about I don't know, 15, 20 of these Archie books under the Spire Comics. So, Eric, would you like to see how this comic holds up in today's world?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the first story, Mr. Lodge is this one is a little weird. Mr. Lodge is happy that a blizzard is going to keep Archie from coming over to see Veronica, but Archie has an idea. He's not going to let the blizzard stop him. No. He's going to put helium in the tires of his jalopy. And Jughead is helping him, and of course, they overfill the tires, so not only it actually exceeds their goal that they can get over the snow, they actually float, and the wind from the blizzard happens to blow them over to the Lodge estate, dropping the jalopy on the roof of the first story of the Lodge estate. Archie and Jughead climb through the window, and they say, well, there's a blizzard out there, so we're going to have to spend the night. And Mr. Lodge is like, this is ruining, I don't love this turn of events, this is horrible. When all of a sudden a televangelist appears on TV reminding viewers that Mary and Joseph were turned away at the inn. So God says, whoever welcomes a child welcomes me. Mr. Lodge takes this to our heart, and he offers Archie a hot chocolate and warm clothes as he's canoodling with Veronica on the couch. Jughead is nowhere to be seen, by the way. I don't know where Jughead disappeared to. Archie tells Veronica that Christmas really does something to people because he's noticing that Mr. Lodge has this change of heart. And Veronica replies, God planned it that way, Arch. So while it's not hitting you over the head, I can understand why Archie Comics did not like the way Al Hartley approached his scripts. But beyond that, but what was weird was Archie and Veronica are really like they're cuddling up on the couch. Archie's going to spend the night. Mr. Lodge is giving him a cup of hot chocolate and a change of clothes. Jughead, who is probably raiding the refrigerator or something, who knows?
I assume that, yeah.
But the whole thing of like the canoodling on the couch I was thinking to myself, is this? I can understand this in an Archie comic, but a Spire Christian comic, I wasn't quite sure about that.
Well, obviously they're okay with canoodling, but
yeah, canoodling's okay. There's what follows is a 2-page 8-panel gag. You know how like Archie comics would have like a 1-page gag. So there are 4 panels per page, and basically it's an Archie character in each one showing off their Christmas tree. Betty is the last one to show off her tree, and it has ornaments with her friends' names on the ornaments. And quote, and the star on top reminds me of my best friend, end quote. So that means the star reminds her of Jesus, right? The next story is Hot Dog doesn't understand why everyone is acting so differently at Christmas. He notices people who, now this is almost like a paraphrase, he notices people who don't go to church all year suddenly get religious. And he figures the secret must be in the manger that all his pals in the animal kingdom have flocked to, the manger in front of the church. So, subtle, but again, Archie Comics would not want this in there. And again, it's wholesome, but it's too religious, I guess, for mainstream. But then again, what is Christmas, right? Christmas is a religious holiday. A lot of people are secular about it, but in reality, it is a religious holiday. Now, here's another one. It's called Hard Card. In order to outdo Reggie's Christmas card to Veronica, Archie decides to create an ice greeting to her on the lawn of her estate overnight. And what he's doing is almost like a sandcastle format. Instead of building snowmen, he's building letters out of the snow and the ice. And he's spelling out, "Good morning, Ronnie. I wish you a very Merry Christ." He didn't finish the word Christmas because he got frozen in the eye. So he's in the eye and he's frozen a la Captain America in the ice. And she's following the words along the lawn. And when she gets to the word Christ and Archie is in the eye, she says, Christ is what Christmas is all about. And then there's a quote from John 15:6 that says, Christ said, if a man lives in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Archie thaws out and he's not damp, he's not wet, he's dry as a bone. He was more wet driving over to Veronica's in a helium-filled jalopy than he was being frozen in ice overnight. Veronica loves the card and wants to know how to thank him. Archie says, just praise the Lord. He cared enough to send the very best. Now, when Veronica says, what can I do to thank you? And Archie's response was that. In my head, the only thing I could think of was that wouldn't have been Archie's response on the TV show Riverdale. There's a story called Archie's Christmas Bells, which basically is talking about the bells that you hear at church during the holidays. Then there's a story, Archie's Old Fashioned Christmas, which kind of takes you back to maybe like Dickensian times, where people would just gather in the parlor for the holidays. They would play games, more simplistic. And at the end it said, life was simpler then. Families were closer. There seemed to be more love. There seemed to be more joy in living, perhaps because folks were closer to the babe of Bethlehem. And there's a nice shot of people, chopping wood, skating on the ice, just like a community, a nice community. Mr. Weatherby, they want Mr. Weatherby to dress up as Santa Claus, and he doesn't want to because he's like, the only reason you're asking me is because I'm fat. So then
poor guy.
They ask Swenson to do it, and he's about to do it, but then he realizes that they invited the orphan kids, He's like, oh, well, you can't have a thin Santa. I'll do it because the kids are here. And then Archie picks him up in the jalopy, and Mr. Weatherby's saying, well, why are we going this way? And they go, well, you just can't walk in. You got to arrive in your sleigh. Well, we don't have a sleigh, so Archie's going to drive you in his red car. And, of course, the car is bouncing and messes up Mr. Weatherby's lumbago and arthritis. So when he arrives, Jughead and Archie have to carry him in. And one of the kids says, I never saw Santa arrive like that before. And one of the other kids says, there's got to be more to Christmas than this. Don't forget, it's not about the presents and the toys. It's about God and Jesus, and what is Christmas all about, Charlie Brown kind of thing. Then Miss Beasley has a kind of almost like a Christmas Carol moment where she doesn't want to go to the Christmas holiday party, but she's visited by the ghost of Christmas past and the Christmas future, and then she gets convinced to go to the Christmas party. Really, nothing. You could have found that story in any Archie comic. Then there's something about Christmas around the world. Just showing things about, how Christmas is celebrated in different countries. Then there's a one-page gag of Christmas with Archie. Basically, no matter what Archie does to try to help people, he screws it up and causes trouble. If he tries to plug in the Christmas tree, it blows out the lights in the house. If he waters the tree, he floods the house, that kind of thing. This one is a little questionable. Archie and Jughead are doing Christmas deliveries for a department store. Jughead smells a fruitcake in one of the boxes and wants to open it. Archie prevents him from doing so, and they arrive on a block of row houses with black children hanging out outside. Archie tells Jughead they'd better deliver the gifts while it's still safe, which I think means while it's still light out. When they deliver the package, Jughead suggests he should open it to make sure it's not damaged. The woman who's at the house agrees. While Jughead opens the fruitcake, she yells out to the kids on the street to come up and get their Christmas presents. After Jughead confirms the cake looks fine, he suggests cutting a piece to make absolutely certain. She agrees and tells him to cut 86 pieces because there are 86 kids on the block. As Jughead is about to eat his morsel, the kid smacks his hand and says Mrs. Waters always prays first. After the prayer, Archie and Jughead leave to continue their deliveries. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to read the last 3 panels of the story. So here we go. So they're leaving. Arch, we're in the middle of a miracle. You're right, Jughead. God's love is pouring through that woman into this whole neighborhood. In some places, all these packages would have been stolen. It's another example that God's love really changes people. And then Jughead says, it sure does. I never ate my fruitcake. So this is part of the bad rap that Spire Christian Comics gets, is that the black neighborhood is unsafe. Archie's jalopy is a convertible. Had it not been Christmas, everything in the car would have been stolen. That's the implication here. So you can see how that's a little questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Archie's prayer page. It's a 9-panel grid of, in each panel, each Archie character is saying a prayer. And then the last story is kind of like almost like a retelling of, not the story of the manger, but explaining what Christmas is all about. Charlie, almost like what is Christmas all about, Charlie Brown, that kind of thing. And it ends like that. And there is there's one puzzle page in there, and there's one of those one-page pinups in there too. And any ads in there are for the comics that the company puts out. So no ads.
So do you know, were those Archie stories, are they newly created for that particular comic book, or are they existing art that they redid the text for?
No, from everything I've known about this company, this is original content, including the artwork, and not just rejiggering the captions or the thought balloons or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is all original art by Al Hartley, and he did the writing and the artwork.
Okay.
Including the cover art.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, I purchased this at a used bookstore. I saw it and again thought Gab Bag right away. Plus, I've been aware of Spire Christian Comics, but I never picked one up. So not only do I have this one, but I got another Archie one, non-Christmas related, which I have not read yet, which I'll talk about on Meanwhile the podcast sometime in 2026, hopefully. Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that then.
But, on the other hand, as much as some might say, Archie's hitting, or Spire Comics is hitting us over the head with this. And you got to understand, the market for these, it always says in here, find our books in your Christian bookstore. So that's your audience. And if these were on the spinner rack, you can't, unless you're not celebrating Christmas in the true sense of the holiday, you can't really fault what they were doing. It's almost like a fine line, because it's Christmas, but everything we talk about, especially here, is so non-religious that we're so used to the secular part that it's almost like I can't blame. There's no blame here. I don't like the prejudice, the subversive prejudice there, but it's not like I'm saying something like this shouldn't exist or anything like that. But there is a market for this, and I can understand why some people don't like this.
Yeah. I get the market thing. It's just I'm just fascinated by the fact that they're using, or they licensed
that it
Archie.
Even exists.
If you're going to do something like this, Archie would be, I think, the right choice to do it, because Archie was so prevalent.
Yeah.
In that time, especially in that time period. So yeah, but the fact that it even exists just is, I find fascinating.
The other things, just to give you an idea, besides for things like the story of Adam and Eve, the story of Noah's Ark, things like that. There's one called Archie's Parables. So it's, I guess, Archie characters, tales from the Bible, I'm guessing. But they also would do, how there would be Classics Illustrated? Well, there are comic adaptations of books that would have been sold at Christian bookstores. And there's one that's, as much as Archie stands out to me on this line, one of the other comics that I think, like you're saying, you're thinking it's still weird that Archie licensed their characters out for something like this. It's almost like, what doesn't belong here? And you're saying, okay, you can understand if you were going to do this with any characters, Archie kind of makes sense. But one of their titles was Tom Landry and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I don't know.
What?
I'm guessing it's the story of the Dallas Cowboys. And now, again, keep in mind, this is 74, did I say? Yeah, 74. So things like the Super Bowl were only, 5 years old? The NFL only had merged the two football, the two football leagues merged into the one football league. So all that stuff was kind of new, and the Dallas Cowboys were kind of like America's team at the time. So I don't know if this is a story of the Cowboys, or, I don't know how they take the Cowboys and put them under this banner. One of these things has got to have some extensive article on this stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
Somebody's got to have a podcast out there about this. So seek it out. And again, don't do any college dissertations on anything I said about the company or Al Hartley.
Well, I find this very interesting. The progression of our selections from, well, actually more of a your final selection being more of an antidote to all of my selections.
I didn't tell you that Moose was the murderer.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah, it's always the dumb ones, the ones who make you think they're dumb.
All right, are we done with the Gab Bag? Is it time to close it back up for the year?
I think we were done after your third comic. To be honest with you, that was a lot of murder and mayhem. Like I said before.
Murder and blood.
Yeah.
All right. Well, George, thank you so much for joining me on yet another Gab Bag. So this is something I look forward to every year. I'm sorry if I, put some bad images in your head, give you some Christmas nightmares.
I was just about to say, I look forward to it too, as we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. Now I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
I'll get right on that therapy for sure.
Yes, please do.
In the meantime, would you please let the folks know where they can find more about Meanwhile the podcast, what you're all about, all that good stuff? I'll have links in the show notes, of course. But where can people find you and give you ideas for future selections for the Gab Bag?
Well, we are on social media. Our account is at Meanwhile ATP on Blue Sky and the site formerly known as Twitter. Meanwhile, the podcast is available on all your podcast apps. We release episodes every Saturday.
And I can't wait to hear what you guys have coming up in the feed. Now, that may have already occurred by the time people hear this, but you always have some nice holiday-related type of episodes with your co-hosts. So I always enjoy listening to that stuff.
Thanks. We do have a lot of fun, and anybody hasn't listened to our show before, hasn't listened lately, you may want to check our archives, because if you like Eric, you might hear him again on another episode of our show that has previously posted very recently, holiday themed, so to speak.
Yes, that was a fun conversation.
Yes.
So yeah, people should check that out. So I guess before I get out of here, happy holidays to everybody. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas, New Year's, all that stuff. Me, I'm just going to be in a dark corner sobbing to myself. But if you have feedback about this particular episode for me or George about any of these Christmas comics or anything else that that may have been mentioned or discussed, please send me an email at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can leave voicemail or text me at 208-953-1841 or converse with me via social media at longboxreview. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you all later next year. Bye-bye.
And that's how you do a Gab Bag.